Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Dan Banchero Show. I'm your host, and yes, still a major league piece of work, Dan Banchero. Last week I ended up on 2009, finished that off, talking about relapse and Stella's birth and getting reacquainted with the great Professor Damon. I remember things were kind of slowly getting to where I didn't want them to be. I was trying to parent and I wasn't dealing with it right, and things got ugly. I kind of want to lead off by saying thank you to all of you who've reached out on social media or by text message or phone call to share your appreciation for this little project that I put together. It's been very, very rewarding, and it's interesting to hear from people I haven't heard from in years about their past addiction issues, their past or present family issues going on, any other types of current personal struggles, maybe some conflict or obstacles in the workplace, imperfect personality traits, or maybe you just like some of the books that I've read and I'm talking about that have been helpful to you too. So keep all the good feedback coming. I really appreciate it. It's been all good, and that's what the purpose of the Dan Banchero Show is, man. It's about feeling good, getting honest, getting transparent. Some people like to swim, run, lift weights, do some yoga, maybe cook, read books, watch a documentary, whatever makes you feel good. I like to talk about how obstacles in my life, I didn't know how to handle them, made things 20 times worse and put myself through a living hell, and how I was able to luckily get through these situations and fortunately live to tell them. I could easily go and make the show about how the people in my life have wronged me, but if you're a guy like me, anger and blame absolutely have to go. I'm not going to sit here and do an appraisal of the actions of others and berate them and humiliate them. This show is about me and how I screwed up my life based on what was going on and how I got through it. And that's it. So I suffered as a result of these decisions too, boy, let me tell you. So this year I almost died. This is a trip this year. I was in a group this morning and we read this. It says, self-righteous anger also can be very enjoyable. In a perverse way, we can actually take satisfaction from the fact that many people annoy us, for it brings a comfortable feeling of superiority. Gossip, barbed with our anger, a polite form of murder by character assassination, has its satisfaction for us too. Here we are trying to help those we criticize. Here we are not trying to help those we criticize. We are trying to proclaim our own righteousness. And that's from page 67 of the 12 and 12. If any of you have ever seen that one. So I'm at Leo J. Ryan Park here in Foster City, and I remember when Stella was, in that first year or two, I take her out to the park here, and she'd crawl around on the grass, and she'd point to the ducks, and she'd look up at the sky, and she'd see the airplanes, and she's pointing at all these new cool things. Being a baby, she's not used to seeing them in her surroundings, and there'd be seagulls going around, and she's very cute, crawling around. I'd giggle and smile and laugh at her, and we'd have a good old time, and we'd tickle, and she'd point, and very cute. Daughter and pop situation. Very, very happy. So I remember that I was working nights at Red Robin and days at the deli, and now in my second semester with Professor Damon at Kenyatta College, I had taken a course at the end of 2009, History 201. Now I'm taking History 202 with him, and I was so obsessed with how wrong things were going. I'd go to work and coworkers would ask me, hey, how's things going with the baby, or how's things going at home? And they kind of knew there's some conflict, there's some challenges, but what was happening was when I'm constantly and frequently expressing my displeasure or what's going on, with or without an opinion, coworkers would state their support of what I was doing. Then I became justifying my actions and my anger, and then I'd slowly be obsessing throughout the day about what was wrong with the other person involved, and I couldn't focus on anything in front of me. My whole life was obsessed with how I was getting screwed over, and I was no longer taking full responsibility for my actions. I was taking some, but not all. So when you're somebody who's no longer praying, reading positive books, self-help books, the Bible, calling your support group, and I stray away and it's all about work and how I'm being wronged and slighted, I'm in big trouble, and I go pick up the bottle. So I struggle to get homework done, I struggle to focus at work, and we just weren't on the same page parenting. Real simple. There's no right or wrong in this. We were just different. So I was becoming an ineffective employee, to say the least. I'd be having drinks before work, tolerate certain individuals, at work and out of work. I need some ease and comfort. But the thing is that next thing you know, I'm about 8 to 10 deep by the time it's 3 p.m., right? So there was no serenity. It was me obsessed with what was wrong. When am I going to get my next drink? And just everybody get off my ass, you know? So I was reading Sermon on the Mount last night by Emmett Fox. And he says on page 42, this is some good stuff, but serenity you must have before you can make any true spiritual progress. And it is serenity, that fundamental tranquility of the soul that Jesus refers to by the word peace. The peace that passes all human understanding. As long as there is fear or resentment or any trouble in your heart, that is to say, as long as you lack serenity or peace, it is not possible for you to attain much. And man, I relate to that. I was going nowhere real fast, and I was making the lives of others around me unpleasant, let's just say. So I was attempting this maintenance drinking around the clock throughout the day, and bottles were being found in the walk-in refrigerator at work. I would pound Budweisers in the back and leave them on the top shelf. You know, if too many people were watching me go inside the walk-in, we had a big old gallon jug of Marsala wine that we used to make chicken Marsala or any type of wine sauce. I'm slugging down that. You know, it was off the hook. It was crazy. And I get busted every time, and you know, I get off work, and I had like a 2-hour break in between the deli and Red Robin, and I'd go park in the parking lot with some booze. And rather than me reading the Proverbs in the Bible and praying like I used to the year prior, when things were going pretty smooth, I was obsessing over how things were going wrong. I'd call my mother, complain and moan, and I'd be slugging down booze before I walked into work. So then I'd be on the dinner shift at Red Robin, and then I'm obsessing about when am I going to get off and when am I going to get out of here. My body would be on fire, inflamed from alcoholism and anger. I couldn't wait to get off, to the point where I'd take my 30-minute dinner break, I'd go over to El Torito, and I'd either buy shots, Coronas, or margaritas, and I'd go back to work. And then I couldn't make it the last hour or two to get off the shift to have more drinks before I got home. I'd order shots and sneak them into kids' cups, fill them up with soda or lemonade, and pound these cocktails without anybody looking. And next thing you know, I got a $30 bar bill on these fake tables that I'm making. Very methodical, very cerebral, very sick. So, yeah, I couldn't wait to get off work. I get home, things were just going bad. You know, there were some good days. You know, Shauna and her mom Irene would take little Stella over to the deli, and you know, we'd visit with some of the customers, and they'd talk to the baby, and you know, it was cool. We had this little lady named Lucille Wagner, otherwise known as Lou. She'd be there. She was one of our favorite customers for the girls to talk to, and you know, but at home things were just not good. It was just constant arguing, and we just weren't on the same page, man. It was really bad, and my drinking was. Even if I had a couple and I was able to fool her and not have her know that I was having any, I'd still be loose with my tongue, and I couldn't control the snide and sarcastic remarks that would come out of my mouth. At the time I became fond of this bartender that worked there, she was a couple years older than me, which was unusual because I was still, you know, a little bit older than most of the servers. She was funny, she had this killer body, beautiful face, and she had this intoxicating laugh. And if you were hanging out with Dan Banchero, usually you're laughing about something. So, you know, I'd flirt back and so on and so forth, and she kind of knew that I was struggling. And, yeah, I remember I eventually decided I had to move out. You know, Stella was about 10 months old, and I just remember my dad died from alcoholism at the age of 40. There was a divorce, but my parents never spoke to each other the way that me and her were speaking to each other. And that's when I knew something was wrong and something had to be done. So there's some coworkers that had this apartment or something, and it was in San Mateo, and they're moving out or they want to sublease. I can't remember the situation exactly, but I moved in there with a sleeping bag to sleep on the floor. I had a cooler as a TV stand, and that was pretty much it. But I was so happy I wasn't going home to bickering every night anymore. I didn't need anything. All I just wanted to do was not fight, and I wanted to drink the way I wanted to drink. So I was hanging out with some coworkers at Red Robin one night, I remember, and we were at the Swinging Door, I believe, in San Mateo, and we were hanging out, we're drinking, and that bartender I was fond of, she was there, and you know, one of the managers was dating one of the servers, and we went back to their apartment that night, and there was about 5 of us. We packed in the car, and you know, I'm going up her skirt and all this, and sitting on my lap in the car, and we get back to the apartment. We're playing quarters, we're drinking, and they're smoking pot out in the back, and you know, I make a move on her in the kitchen. We start making out, and then I lure her into the bathroom, and then you know, one thing leads to another. I'm giving her all the smooth lines, you know, because you know, I'm smooth as a 30-year Scotch with all the lines. Anyway, well, at least I thought I was. So I get her on the toilet in the missionary position, and we're going at it, and I look up, and my boss and one of the other servers is in this window above the toilet, and they're waving their fist pumping and cheering me on, with the DTM and the Dan the Man stuff and all this stuff. And I'm going and I'm doing the Dan Hammer, and all of a sudden this door swings open in the bathroom, and one of the other servers comes walking in, and she was a Persian girl. She had this tremendous bust, and she comes in topless, and she comes in, she sticks her rack in my face, like I'm a screaming infant looking for milk from her mother or something. And then she leaves after interrupting this procedure that I'm trying to perform. And then another girl comes walking in, and she starts telling me about her sexual encounter with the one who just burst in, and there's all this commotion going on. And needless to say, I did not work my way up the corporate ladder as a result of this incident and get into management at Red Robin. So things got embarrassing, and there's gossip going around in the workplace. People kind of knew what had happened. So I brought that on myself. We weren't too embarrassed, but when you're an egomaniac like a guy like me, who has personalized shirts, at the time, I was really just, I didn't care. I was no longer focused on rectifying what was going on with my daughter's mother. I just wanted to pay the child support, see my kid when I could, and go have my fun again, But it didn't work out. I remember I was drinking, and I went into work one morning, and I was still loaded from the night before, and I started drinking some more, and I got caught, and the owner's like, you can't even walk. You need to find another job. I mean, he had just had enough. I don't blame him. I mean, that family did a lot for me, and I owe them a lot of my success over the years as far as the workplace. I learned how to treat people. I learned how to, be cordial with your employees, make people feel appreciated. The Bronte family did so much for me over the years. I was so remorseful at the way I had drugged their business into my madness. The circle of engulfment kept on opening up, and I couldn't handle life at home. I drank, and I jeopardized their livelihood. And I'm pretty sure I've been forgiven and it's been reconciled now. But I hung on to it for a long time. I felt very bad about it, and I didn't feel right about it. And I drank over that then too. So then I continued to justify my drinking because of the way I felt and the way I treated these people. So I had to go find another job, and I got some other serving job, and things were happening. I was going out with these Red Robin people here and there. We're playing cards, and I felt young and free again. I didn't have to deal with any of this madness anymore. But I still have remorse because I wasn't seeing my little girl's smiling face every morning, waking her up, singing to her, and feeding her. So I'd go over there like 9 or 10 o'clock, and I'd take her out for a little walk, or I'd read her a book, or we'd watch Sesame Street, and I'd put her in the stroller, and we'd walk around town. We'd point to the bushes and the birds and all that, and I'd talk to her. And we had some good times, still. And I'd go to work, and I'd see her at night when I could, and it was a little bit better, But once nighttime hit and I was off work, it was on, man. And spending time with this woman, and I don't know. I just it was like I was living this double life. Like I was happy, but I wasn't happy because I just things weren't right. I remember I was driving around in my Mustang with a half gallon of Carlo Rossi red wine, and I'm just maintenance drinking throughout the day. But you do this for enough period of time, it's not good for your body, man. And I remember I went to John Carlo's wedding, and I was drinking red wine that night. I was supposed to be the designated driver, but it didn't work out. And I'm dancing on the dance floor, and I felt this urge to do the Nature Boy Ric Flair flop, like I used to at all the house parties, like the old days, and at Blush nightclub in Burlingame. I got threatened to get banned if I didn't stop doing that maneuver at Blush nightclub. And so I did this flop 7 times, right? So I didn't know at the time that earlier in the week I began to feel this horrible cramping sensation inside of my lower abdomen as I was driving, and it was like I just got done doing sit-ups or something. I didn't have enough water. I needed to stretch, but it kept happening over and over and over again. So I remember I was taking some supernatural amounts of turmeric because I heard it was good for detoxing your body. So I'm combining that, I'm drinking all this booze, I'm doing these flops, and I'm not feeling right. All of a sudden I got the explosive diarrhea after the wedding, throwing up this red liquid. I'm thinking it's the red wine from all week long. And I'm feeling faint, and finally I left the apartment. I went to Shauna's house and said, you got to get me to the hospital. And she got me to the hospital, and they told me I was having an esophageal hemorrhage. And I was bleeding out to death, and I didn't even know it. So thank God, I'm sitting there. I thought I was going out. I thought I was a goner. I remember I was going out, and I thought that it was giving me lights out, and it was curtain call. I remember seeing Shauna just frightened to death in the corner of the ER, and the doctors were all trying to help me, and I'm spewing blood all over the place out of my mouth, and it's flying in this little bucket, and it was like a terrible horror film. It was the most frightening experience of my life, and I could not believe that this was happening. I remember I came to in the hospital, and I had to stay there for like 5 days, and some of the guys, Danny, Brian, Tony, and Phil came to visit me, and I couldn't believe my alcoholism had gotten back to that. So I had to get out of this department. My Aunt Tori was like, you got to do something else. So she offered me to stay in her little guest room for a couple months until I got things situated. But I was still in such remorse and self-pity over what happened with the deli and not being with Stella and fighting with and arguing and the disagreements with Shauna. It was so terrible, and the bartender couldn't see me anymore because I was a mess. She came in at the wrong time, and I just it was absolutely terrible. So she ended up taking the apartment, and I had to give in. My Aunt Tori knew that I still drank here and there because she could smell it on me when I got home. I was taking these jobs at these other restaurants, and things were just falling apart. I couldn't even hold it together, So in the Entitlement Cure by Dr. John Townsend, there's a little passage. So he's talking to this client of his who's a big-time business owner, and he's not even talking about addiction. But this little paragraph caught my eye when I was reading it because this really described me very well. He says, at some point you decided that you had contributed to your misery and that you were key to removing your misery. But not everyone does. A lot of people will either remain in their pain, continuing to hit their heads against the wall of reality, or else someone keeps rescuing them from it. Codependence, the safety net, money. Eventually, my parents and my friends decided not to enable my bad behavior, and when I got sick of the pain, that was my tipping point. That's from pages 31 and 32 of the Entitlement Cure. So, I had to take a month off of work. I couldn't work. I began working at night at... I got a medical leave from Red Robin. I began working at B Street and Vine, and everything was just falling apart. Tori knew I was suffering, and she offered to pay for a first 1 month of rehab. Some of my friends were trying to take a collection, I understand, to get me a month of rehab before I died. I just could not stop drinking, no matter how horrific that esophageal hemorrhage was. It was absolutely incredible that I could not stop. It was crazy. So I ended up at Diablo Valley Ranch again. But I remember prior to that week, the Giants were in the World Series, and the night before I went into rehab, it was Game 5, and I had been drinking all day long. And I went by the apartment, and I talked to the girl, and she wrote me a letter, and I told her, she was basically blaming herself for what had been going on. She felt totally at guilt. I told her that wasn't necessarily the case. A lot of it was my frustration with myself, knowing what the solution is and choosing not to apply it. So I was on this huge run, man. I'm drinking all day long. I'm drinking and driving throughout San Mateo. It was really bad. And it was the day before I went to rehab. So Mark and Shannon had a party at their house down in San Mateo for the World Series. It was Game 5. I remember I walked in like in the last inning, and the Giants got that last out, and everybody's celebrating, and I'm just lit up like a lamp. And so people start leaving to go to the city, and they're going to go party. I'm in no shape to go party. I know I'm going to rehab the next day. Somehow I end up with Phil at his place, and I'm in this blackout. I don't remember this happening, but I remember getting out of his car and getting dropped off back at Tori's house, and her and Courtney are carrying me in, like a dead corpse into the apartment. And I went in to take a shower, and I fell in the shower and hit my head, and they're freaking out, and they're really scared. They get me to Diablo Valley Ranch the next day. I'm just a mess. I hadn't had a drink for over 12 hours, right? So I get to the Diablo Valley Ranch, and they give me a breathalyzer. And I see Steve there, and Steve's still working the desk, and he was working the desk when I was there the first time, and I'm glad to see him. I'm asking for Mike Grisby, my old counselor, and Mike comes in, I'm crying, I'm weeping, I give Mike a big hug. He said, Mike, and Steve's like, Mike, look who's back, and I just felt like I was being saved, and I had another chance, but I was so sad, and I was so upset, but I was safe. So I go to blow this breathalyzer, and this is 12 hours I stopped drinking. I blew a .27. I couldn't believe it, so I had to go to detox. So I'm in this detox out in Concord, and I'm there for like 3 days, and all of a sudden, I remember I'm laying in this room and I'm watching these guys. One guy is in the corner yelling out some girl's name, and he's masturbating under the sheets. I see his hand going up and down under the sheet. I look to my right, and there's a guy about 10 or 15 years older than me, and he's jumping up trying to grab butterflies out of the sky. And then there's this other guy who I started engaging in conversation with because his name happened to be James Baker. So I'm explaining to him, I said, hey, one of my best friends is named James Baker. So he goes and tells the other people in the house that he thought I was out to try to kill him. So he's hallucinating too. He takes off barefoot with no clothes and no possessions in his scrub from the hospital. They call the police on him. So I'm just like, this is a trip. So what happens to me when I'm detoxing from alcohol is I start seeing things like pictures. And I remember seeing like these spiders. So what happens is if I close my eyes, I start seeing these like cartoons and things going on through my head. All these weird like explosions and animals, but it's all like animation. It's incredible. It happens almost every single time when I was in these horrible situations, right? And I'm thinking people are dealing drugs in and out of the room, and they're coming in and out, and it was really scary. It was really trippy, you know. So they decided, you know, Dan, you need to go to the hospital. You're losing it. I remember my heart started beating like crazy. I hadn't slept for 3 days, and I thought I was dying of delirium tremens. So I remember I was in this van to get me to the hospital and freaking out. And I get to it was out in like Benicia or something out in the East Bay, and I'm calling Jackie and I'm talking nonsense to her, and you know, I got all these IVs in my arm. They're trying to pump me full of Ativan, all these things that help me not have a seizure. And I'm hallucinating hysterically, right? And I remember I thought that my Mustang was out in the parking lot, even though the Mustang was out in San Mateo. And I thought somebody was trying to steal my car. So I'm ripping the IVs out of my arms, and I'm getting up in this, and I'm in my scrubs. I got, you know, my junk's hanging out, my buttocks are out, and these little timid nurses are freaking out. Why do you do that? Why do you do that? And there's blood just gushing all out of my arms. I'm trying to leave, tell them my car's getting stolen. It's all good. I get rushed by these 3 security guards. They pick me up. They slam me on this table. They strap me down on this table. I'm trying to get out. I'm going berserk. And it was absolute insanity. This alcoholism is crazy. This is what it gets to if you don't treat this quicker. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of us have to find out for ourselves, but I'm telling you, man, it does not get pretty. So I'm there for a couple days. I get back to the ranch. I call over. I find out that when I went to the party the night of the Giants World Series, I parked my car blocking the driveway. The car was in Shauna's name for legal reasons, and she's getting calls from the police, so she bawled me out about that situation. She had to get up and call her mom and watch the baby while she went and got the car at San Mateo from in front of the Kohlberg's house. I felt terrible about it. You know, she's really fired up now. But, you know, I got right back into it when I got to the ranch, man. I got back to the ranch, and I'm getting back into the Bible study with Pastor Willie and Papa Ray. I befriended a couple guys. My main man, Anthony Araza, and Justin was there. They're my roommates. We'd read the Bible together. And, you know, I felt like I was safe, and I was making an honest effort to grow spiritually. I found a new mentor who's kind of taking me through this book. We went to page 63, and I learned this prayer on page 63. Basically surrendering my decisions and my thoughts and actions over to whatever God it is I understand. And I started doing, you know, these appraisals of myself and my behavior all over again, and I started feeling better. I was there for 60 days, and, you know, we had this family night thing, and my counselor's trying to negotiate visits with Shauna and the baby, and they came out once or twice, and we'd have these big groups, and everybody started clapping, right? And then Stella, who's just like a little bit over a year old, she'd sit there with her big smile, and she's clapping like this, and it's all cute. And it just warmed my heart, and I knew there was a lot more to be amended, you know. But I was so grateful for that ranch, for the help of Mike Rigsby and my buddies over there. Brian Krang was my sponsor at the time, and I kind of got through it, man. And I got great feedback, and I thought things were going to be better. So I had almost 2 months, and the year ended on New Year's, just like I did 3 years. I went in November 2nd of that year. And 3 years prior, I went on November 4th. So it was almost to the date that I had gone back. So I spent another New Year sober at a dance. And things seemed like it was going to be okay. And I got the blessing from everybody to leave. And then 2010 was over, and 2011 rolled around, you know. And but it wasn't over, as you're going to find out. So back to Sermon on the Mount. I want to close with this. So sooner or later, every human being will have to discover the truth about God and make his own contact with him at first hand. He will have to acquire the understanding of the truth, which will set him free once and for all from our three-dimensional limitations and their concomitants: sickness, sin, and death. But most people will not undertake the search for God wholeheartedly unless driven thereto by trouble of some kind. Yet, if people were to turn to God and acquire something of this understanding, while their health is still good, they need never be sick at all. And that's from the Sermon on the Mount, page 23 and 24. I encourage you all to get these books that I mentioned earlier for spiritual enlightenment, entitlement, cures, solutions, man. I gotta have my mind on solutions at all times because life creeps up on a daily basis and I gotta be ready to handle it, you know? I was not being the guy that I wanted to be, and I was not happy, and I was hurting a lot of people, and I had to start taking responsibility, and I did for a little bit, but the insanity would come back again in 2011 real fast, and I wasn't ready. So, with that being said, I want you all to have a great weekend. I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Dan Banchero Show. Thanks for tuning in. If you know somebody who's suffering or who needs some help with somebody else who's suffering, whether it's addiction or just decision making or trying to find spiritual solutions, tell them about the Dan Banchero Show. Have them check it out. You know, this show isn't for everybody. I know that. I don't expect everybody to be glued to this phone or computer every week, but this is what I'm doing, man. You know, baseball season's over and there's only so many selfies I can take with me and my friends and my family for everybody, so I had to do something new. But baseball's around the corner. Anyway, have a great weekend. And here's to feeling good all the time.